Need something that's going to make us laugh, cry, sing, and dance. In the Heights is that film. It is a movie musical that celebrates family and community in a New York City neighborhood called Washington Heights, a neighborhood that's quickly being gentrified. There are 96,000 reasons I'm excited about our next guest. He is Lin-Manuel Miranda, the creator of In the Heights and a little Broadway musical you might have heard of called Hamilton. Hello, Lin-Manuel. It is so great to have you here. You got to tell me, what was the wildest thing that happened on set?
The wildest thing that happened on set? I mean, how long do you have? When you film on location in the neighborhood and you've written a musical about that neighborhood, it gets pretty wild. I think the wildest day for me was the day we filmed a song called Carnaval del Barrio. It is an 8-minute number. We only had one day in the schedule to film it, from sunup to sundown. Everyone is waving their flags from their countries of origin, where they're from. And that day, when we finally got the last shot and we called cut, no one would stop dancing. Aww. Everyone just kept singing and dancing, and someone started chanting, New York. And it was like we weren't, the number wasn't done with us yet. It was one of the most unforgettable moments of my life.
That's wild, and that is beautiful. I love that, because that's what we need in the world right now. So I love that this movie featured a lot of salsa and hip hop and rap, which is not a common mix in musicals. So what inspired you to mix all of these genres together?
It really, In the Heights began when I was 19 years old. I was a sophomore in college. I was incredibly fired up and inspired by Jonathan Larson's Rent a couple of years prior, which was the first contemporary musical I'd ever seen. I think that's the show that got me from being a fan of musicals to thinking I could have the audacity to write one. And what Jonathan did is what I tried to do, which was take the music he loved that wasn't musical theater music and put it into his work. And, I grew up as Lin-Manuel at home and Lin at school, where there were not as many Latinos. And I just wanted to put in every art form that I love. My favorite hip hop is the storytelling hip hop. It's those Biggie stories. It's Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt. And I wanted to put everything I loved about hip hop music and pop music and the Latin music I'd grown up with and use that in musical theater.
Oh, I like that. You just called out some hits right there. That's like golden era hip hop right there. I'm right with you. Now, you mentioned this a bit off the top. The musical numbers are insane. There are so many people involved. What was it like filming those scenes? Was it mayhem? How did you control it all?
It was, well, listen, we filmed on location in the neighborhood the show is about. So our first job was to be good neighbors and say, listen, we're coming here to honor and immortalize this block, and we're going to mess up your parking for like a month. But if we do this right, it's going to live forever in this form. And so we cast locally, we ate locally, we really sort of, tried to support every local business around us while we were filming on location. And it really got to a point where I couldn't tell who were our extras and who were just folks in the neighborhood who were hanging out. There was an elderly couple who noticed me on day 6 and were like, hey, you're Lin-Manuel. Do you like sorullos? And would bring me food. And then every day I was eating food from this couple. So the way in which we were embraced by the neighborhood really kind of, it helped make those very challenging numbers possible.
That is a beautiful thing. Now, you mentioned this idea, this goes way back for you. You've been fighting to get this film made for over 10 years. It almost didn't happen. Can you tell us why that was, and what was the turning point that moved things forward?
Yeah, I think time's caught up with us, honestly. In retrospect, I think I was naive because, honestly, the miracle was getting this show written by 2 Latinos, starring a largely Latino cast, to Broadway in the first place. And that was an 8-year journey. To think we'd go to Hollywood smooth sailing is naive in retrospect, but we really hit a wall where basically studios said, hey, there are no Latino movie stars really that can open this movie, so we don't feel comfortable putting in the money to make it, which is, of course, the catch-22, right? Well, if you don't cast Latinos in starring roles, you don't make international Latino movie stars. It's a self-defeating cycle. And it was amazing to watch John M. Chu puncture that with Asian and Asian American actors with Crazy Rich Asians. The way he cast that so intelligently in terms of here are some faces you know, and here are some faces you don't, but they're all movie stars. And we had this sort of same intentionality within the Heights. There are movie stars whose names you don't know yet in this movie, and I can't wait for you to meet them.
Yeah, that's a beautiful mandate right there. It's been a long while since the musical premiered. So how has the main messaging changed from 2008? And what kinds of things had to be changed for the movie?
Well, first of all, full credit to my co-writer, Chiara, who really brilliantly updated her own libretto into the screenplay that you see on screen. And there were a lot of things she did. I mean, one, when in the original stage production of In the Heights, it's block full of Latino-owned businesses, and gentrification is just kind of around the corner. It's creeping in. It's just getting more expensive to live there. From jump in our movie, that fancy white-owned like dry cleaning is there already. Like, it's here. Gentrification is here, and it's here to stay. And then the other thing that she did that was so brilliant is she really brought the topic of immigration to the center of the story in a way that it was in the background of the stage version, but she had one of our beloved characters and had them dealing with undocumented status, their undocumented immigrant status. And again, like when you see that character and they're struggling with that, you can't otherize us as a people in the same way. That's one of the beautiful things art can do, is it can put you in someone else's shoes. And I think Chiara did that brilliantly by centering that narrative in the movie version.
You sort of touched on this a little bit. You chose very talented Latinx actors who may be less known, right? And that was done purposely. How did you know they were the right people for their roles, and how important was it for you to bolster lesser known BIPOC actors?
Well, I could give you an hour on each actor in our movie. We have a very large ensemble. I'm thinking of Melissa Barrera, who was already on this unbelievably brilliant but underrated show called Vida on Stars. And I didn't know this until after she was cast, but she had seen In the Heights 15 times on Broadway and was a big fan of the show. I think of Leslie Grace. She has incredible bachata music. And we really specified also in the script that Nina is an Afro-Latina character. And we really went further in terms of Nina's journey. This isn't just like Nina feels out of place at school. Nina experiences real like microaggressions and cultural dislocation, and we were able to go a lot further because it's a movie and we have more time and more real estate. And we were so grateful to find Leslie, who was this was her first starring role in a movie, but just embodied the character so brilliant and is the total package. And I can't wait to see her next movie and her next movie. That's the exciting part of being at this part of the journey.
Listen, congratulations to you. We're just so excited that we could hang out with you today and get in on this action. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you.